That's my wife." The words didn't sound loud, but they cut clean through the marble lobby like something the room wasn't ready to hear. The guards paused, confused, their hands still hovering near Ethan's worn jacket, as if unsure whether to push him out or step back. A few people nearby chuckled under their breath. One man shook his head. "Buddy, you're in the wrong building." Ethan didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just stood there, shoulders steady, eyes tired but unshaken, like a man who had learned long ago that dignity didn't need volume. The fluorescent lights above hummed softly, reflecting off polished floors that had never known dust, and for a moment, everything felt too clean, too distant from the life he had lived just yesterday. Because yesterday, Ethan Cole wasn't standing in a glass tower in downtown Manhattan. Yesterday, he was in a one-bedroom trailer on the edge of a forgotten road, counting crumpled bills on a kitchen table that leaned slightly to the left. "Dad, it's cold again." His daughter's voice had been small, almost apologetic, as if even needing warmth felt like too much to ask. He had smiled anyway. "I'll fix it, Lil. Just give me a minute." 3 quick knocks on the heater. 1 deep breath. A quiet prayer he never said out loud. Then silence. The kind of silence that settles into a man's bones when he runs out of ways to make things better. But now there were suits. Expensive shoes. Eyes that judged without asking. "Sir, I'm going to need you to leave," one of the guards said again, firmer this time. Ethan exhaled slowly. "I'm not here to cause trouble." He glanced toward the elevator, then back at them. "I'm just here because she asked me to come." "Who?" A woman in heels asked, arms crossed, already amused. Ethan hesitated, not because he didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud still didn't feel real. Victoria Hayes. The name landed. Not loud, but heavy. A ripple moved through the lobby, subtle but undeniable. Phones paused mid-scroll. Conversation slowed. Someone near the reception desk turned fully to look at him. "You mean the CEO?" the woman said, her smile tightening. Ethan nodded once. Just once. No explanation. No defense. The guard let out a short laugh. "Yeah, okay." 3 words. Light. Dismissive. Familiar. Ethan had heard that tone before, in garages, in waiting rooms, in every place where people decided what you were worth before you ever spoke. He didn't flinch. He didn't step back. He just waited. 2 seconds. 3. Then the elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Heels echoed. Slow. Measured. Unhurried. And the moment Victoria Hayes stepped into the lobby, the air changed. Conversations died. Laughter faded. Even the guards straightened without being told. She didn't look at them first. She didn't look at the crowd. Her eyes went straight to Ethan, and then, just slightly past him, to the little girl standing quietly behind his leg, clutching his sleeve like it was the only safe place left in the world. Victoria's expression didn't soften. Not immediately, but something shifted. Something quiet. Something real. She stepped closer. 1 step. Then another. "Is this her?" she asked, her voice calm, controlled, almost gentle. Ethan nodded, slower this time. "This is Lily." Victoria looked at the child, really looked, as if reading something no one else could see. Then she lowered herself just enough to meet her eyes. No cameras. No announcement. Just a single moment, held in silence. And when she spoke again, the entire lobby seemed to lean in without realizing it. "Come with me," she said softly. And just like that, everything began to change. The elevator doors closed with a soft whisper, sealing them away from the noise, the judgment, and the world Ethan understood. For a moment, no one spoke. The quiet was different here, heavier, like the air itself expected something important to happen. Lily held tighter to his sleeve. "Dad, are we in trouble?" she asked softly. Ethan knelt slightly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "No, sweetheart. We are just somewhere new." Victoria stood across from them, still, composed, watching without interruption. 3 seconds passed. 4. Then she pressed a button, and the elevator began its smooth ascent. "Penthouse," she said, as if that explained everything. It did not. The numbers climbed. 10, 20, 30. Each floor pulling Ethan further from the life he knew, further from the cracked heater, the leaning table, the quiet nights where hope felt like something you had to stretch to reach. "Why us?" Ethan finally asked, his voice low, careful, not demanding, not accusing, just honest. Victoria did not answer right away. She looked at the reflection of The three of them in the mirrored wall. A billionaire in a tailored black suit. A man in worn denim. A child standing between two worlds. "Because you showed up," she said at last. Ethan frowned slightly. "I do not understand." The elevator slowed. The doors opened to a space that did not feel real. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the skyline. Sunlight pouring in like something alive, touching polished wood, quiet art, and a piano that looked like it had never been played loudly. Lily stepped forward first, her eyes wide. "Dad, look." Her voice was not afraid anymore. It was curious, almost light. That alone made Ethan pause. Victoria walked past them, setting her keys down with a soft click. "You can take your time," she said. "Nothing here needs to be rushed." 3 quick steps from Lily. A slow turn. A small breath she did not realize she was holding. "It is so big," she whispered. Ethan stayed near the entrance, unsure where he belonged in a place like this. "Victoria," he said, steadier now. "You need to tell me what this is." She turned to face him. Not cold, not distant, just measured. "This is a second chance," she replied. He shook his head slightly. "People like me do not wake up into second chances like this." A faint pause. Then she stepped closer, her heels quiet against the floor. "No," she said. "People like you create them." Silence followed. Not awkward, not tense, just something deeper, something waiting to be understood. Lily wandered toward the piano, her fingers hovering above the keys, but not touching them. "Can I?" she asked. Victoria nodded once. "You can." A single note filled the room. Soft, fragile, then another. Ethan watched his daughter carefully, something in his chest tightening in a way he could not explain. She had not reached for anything like that in a long time. Not since the world had taught her to stay quiet. Victoria noticed too. She did not smile. She did not react outwardly. But her eyes softened, just slightly, like she had been waiting for that exact moment. Ethan looked back at her. "You knew," he said. It was not a question. She held his gaze. "I know more than you think." He took a slow breath. Then start talking. Another pause. This one longer. More deliberate. Victoria glanced once at Lily, then back at Ethan. "Not yet," she said gently. "Right now she matters more." And for the first time since the morning began, Ethan did not argue. Because in that quiet room, with sunlight pouring in and his daughter touching something like joy again, he felt it. Something shifting. Something he had not felt in years. Not hope. Not yet. But something close enough to make a man stay. The note lingered in the air, soft and uncertain, as Lily pressed another key, then another, each sound hesitant but alive, like something waking up after a long, quiet sleep. Ethan stood still, watching her, not wanting to interrupt whatever fragile moment had found its way back into her hands. 3 notes. A pause. A breath she did not realize she was holding. Then a small melody, uneven but real. Victoria remained where she was, her posture calm, her eyes steady. But there was something different now, something less guarded, as if she had been waiting not for Ethan, not for explanations, but for this exact sound. "She has not done that in a while, has she?" Victoria asked quietly. Ethan shook his head. Not since her mother passed. The words were simple, but they carried weight, the kind that settled into the room without needing to be explained. Victoria nodded once, slowly, absorbing it. "Grief does not always speak," she said. "Sometimes it just takes things away." Ethan looked at her more closely now. "You talk like you know that." A brief silence followed. Not defensive, not distant, just measured. "I do," she replied. Lily pressed another note, this one stronger, clearer, and for a brief second, she smiled. It was small, almost easy to miss, but Ethan saw it. And when he did, something in his chest tightened in a way that felt almost unfamiliar. Hope did not rush in. It never did. But it stood at the door. Victoria stepped closer to the piano, not too close, careful not to break the moment. "Do you like music?" she asked Lily gently. Lily nodded, still looking at the keys. "My mom used to sing," she said. Her voice was soft, but it did not hide anymore. Victoria lowered herself slightly, just enough to meet her at eye level. "Then we should make sure you do not forget how that feels." Ethan watched that exchange carefully. There was no performance in Victoria's voice. No need to impress. Just intention. Quiet. Direct. Real. "What are you planning?" he asked, his tone calm but firm. Victoria stood again, turning back to him. "I am not planning," she said. "I am responding." He frowned slightly. To what? She met his gaze without hesitation. To a promise that was made a long time ago. The words landed differently this time. Not confusing, not vague, but unfinished. Ethan took a step forward. I do not remember making any promises to you. Victoria's expression did not change, but her eyes held something deeper now, something that did not belong to this room or this moment. That does not mean you did not, she said softly. 3 seconds passed. 4. The city outside stretched endlessly through the glass, cars moving like distant thoughts, people unaware that something quiet and important was unfolding above them. Lily played one more note, then turned slightly. Dad, it sounds better here. Ethan smiled faintly, stepping closer to her. It does. Victoria watched them both, her hands resting lightly at her sides, as if resisting the urge to step further into a life she had not yet fully claimed. Then, without raising her voice, without calling attention to herself, she said something that shifted the air once more. Tomorrow morning, there will be a doctor here at 9. Ethan looked at her immediately. Why? She did not hesitate. Because she deserves answers. The room went still again. Not heavy, not tense, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before something begins to change in ways no one can take back. And for the first time, Ethan did not question whether he should stay. He only wondered what else she already knew. The word lingered longer than it should have. Answers. It was a simple word, but in Ethan's world, it was also a rare one. 9 in the morning, he repeated quietly. Victoria nodded once, already moving toward the kitchen as if the decision had been made long before he walked into the building. He is the best pediatric specialist in the state, she said. He will be here on time. Ethan followed her with his eyes, his thoughts catching up slowly. You already arranged this? She poured a glass of water, the sound steady, controlled. Yes. One word. Calm. Certain. No apology. Ethan exhaled through his nose. A habit he had when something felt too fast, too far out of his control. You do not even know us. Victoria paused, the glass still in her hand. 2 seconds. Then she turned. I know enough. Lily tapped one last note behind them, then slid off the piano bench, her small shoes making a soft sound against the floor as she walked closer. Dad, is the doctor going to hurt? She asked, her voice careful, almost rehearsed from too many past visits that had not helped. Ethan knelt immediately, placing a hand on her shoulder. No, sweetheart. He is just going to talk. Maybe run a few tests. She looked at him, searching his face the way children do when they need truth more than comfort. Like last time, the question hung there. Light, quiet, but heavy in what it carried. Ethan did not answer right away. He could not, because last time had been long waits, short answers, and bills that made no sense for a man who fixed engines for a living. Victoria stepped closer, her voice soft but steady. Not like last time. Both of them looked at her. She did not kneel. She did not try to replace anything. She simply met Lily's eyes. This time, someone will listen. Silence followed. Not empty, just different. Lily nodded slowly, as if something in that answer felt enough for now. 3 small steps back. 1 glance at the window. Then she walked toward it, drawn again to the light. Ethan stood up, turning back to Victoria. You cannot just step into our lives and start making decisions, he said. His tone was not harsh, but it was firm, grounded in something deeper than pride. I have been making decisions for her since the day she was born. Victoria held his gaze without interruption. And you have done well, she replied. But you have also done it alone. The words were not sharp. They were honest. And that made them land harder. Ethan looked away for a moment, his jaw tightening slightly. He did not deny it. He could not. That still does not explain this, he said, gesturing lightly around the room, the city, the distance between their worlds. Victoria set the glass down gently, the sound soft against the counter. No, she said. It does not. She stepped closer, not invading, just closing the space enough to be heard without effort. But not everything needs to be explained immediately to be real. 3 seconds passed. 4. The sunlight shifted slightly through the windows, casting longer shadows across the floor, touching the piano, the walls, the 3 of them standing in a moment that did not belong to yesterday or tomorrow. You are asking me to trust you, Ethan said quietly. Victoria shook her head once. No, she replied. I am giving you a reason to. Another pause. Then, softer, almost to herself, she added. Trust is not something I ask for anymore. Ethan studied her now, really studied her, the way a man does when he realizes there is a story behind the surface he has not yet heard. Lily's reflection moved in the glass, small, steady, alive in a way she had not been in weeks. And in that quiet, between questions and answers, Ethan felt it again. That same shift, that same pull. Not control, not certainty, but something deeper. Something that did not force him forward, but made leaving feel impossible. The night came quietly, the kind that did not rush in but slowly settled over the city like a soft, unspoken agreement. The skyline glowed beyond the glass, lights stretching for miles, but inside the penthouse, everything felt still. Ethan sat at the edge of the couch, his elbows resting on his knees, hands loosely clasped as if holding onto something invisible. Lily had fallen asleep not long ago, curled up under a blanket that felt too soft to belong to their world, her breathing steady, peaceful in a way he had not seen in months. 3 slow breaths. 1 glance toward her. Then silence. Victoria stood near the window, her reflection blending into the city behind her, distant yet present. She sleeps easier here, she said quietly. Ethan nodded. Yeah. A pause followed, longer this time, as if both of them understood that the quiet was not empty. It was full of things neither of them had said yet. You have questions, Victoria added, turning slightly. Ethan let out a small breath through his nose. I have more than that. She waited. Not impatient. Not defensive. Just ready. You said this is a second chance, he began, his voice low but steady. You said I showed up. But I do not remember meeting you. Not like this. Not anything that leads to. He gestured lightly around them again, searching for the right word, but never quite finding one that fit. Victoria stepped away from the window, the soft sound of her heels marking each step as she closed the distance. Do you remember a gas station on Route 17? She asked. Ethan frowned slightly, thinking. I have worked a lot of places. This one was different, she continued. Late fall. Cold enough that your breath stayed in the air. A car on the side of the road. Hood open. Ethan's expression shifted, just a little. A flicker of recognition. There are always cars on the side of the road. Victoria nodded. This one had a woman who did not belong there. 3 sentences. Calm. Measured. Then silence. Ethan leaned back slightly, his mind moving through old days, long hours, small moments he had never thought mattered. I stop for people, he said. That is not unusual. Victoria's eyes held his now. No, she said softly. But what you did after that was. 2 seconds passed. Then she continued, slower this time. You did not ask for money. You did not ask who I was. You fixed the problem, made sure I could drive again, and then you left. Ethan blinked once, the memory beginning to take shape. I do that all the time, he said. Victoria shook her head gently. Not like that. She stepped closer, her voice lowering, not for secrecy, but for truth. I offered you more than enough to change your life that day. Ethan looked at her carefully now. And I said no. It was not a question. Victoria nodded. You said it was not right to take something you did not earn. Silence settled again, but this time it was different. It carried weight. Recognition. Something beginning to connect. Ethan ran a hand through his hair slowly. That was you. Yes. 1 word. No drama. No emphasis. Just truth. He looked away for a moment, absorbing it, then back at her. So you tracked me down and married me? There was no accusation in his voice. Only confusion wrapped in quiet disbelief. Victoria's expression softened, just slightly. No, she said. I remembered you. 3 seconds. 4. The city lights flickered in the distance. Lily shifted gently in her sleep, her hand tightening slightly around the blanket. Victoria glanced toward her, then back at Ethan. And when I found out what happened to your wife, and what your daughter has been going through, she stopped. Not because she did not have more to say, but because some things did not need to be spoken all at once. Ethan's voice was softer now. You decided to step in. Victoria held his gaze. I decided not to walk away this time. And in that quiet room, with nothing forced and nothing promised, the truth finally began to take shape. Not as something loud, not as something overwhelming, but as something steady, something real, something that had started long before Ethan ever knew her name. Morning arrived without noise, the kind that slipped gently through the glass walls, carrying soft light that painted the room in quiet gold. Ethan was already awake, sitting near the window, a cup of untouched coffee cooling in his hands. He had not slept much, not because the place was unfamiliar, but because something inside him refused to settle. 3 thoughts repeating, 1 question unanswered, then silence. Behind him, Lily stirred, the faint sound of fabric shifting as she opened her eyes slowly, adjusting to a world that still did not feel entirely real. "Dad?" she whispered. Ethan turned immediately, his expression softening. "I am right here, sweetheart." She sat up, looking around, her gaze moving across the high ceilings, the sunlight, the piano resting quietly in the corner. "We did not dream this," she asked. Ethan gave a small smile, the kind that carried both warmth and uncertainty. "No, we did not." A pause, then a small nod from her, as if she was deciding to believe it for now. Footsteps approached, steady, measured. Victoria entered the room dressed simply but precisely, her presence calm, composed, as if mornings like this had always belonged to her. "Good morning," she said. Ethan stood, setting the cup down. "Morning." Lily gave a small wave. "Hi." Victoria's expression softened slightly. "The doctor will be here in 10 minutes. No rush. No tension. Just a statement placed gently into the room." Ethan glanced at the clock on the wall, then back at her. "You are very certain about everything." Victoria met his gaze. "I do not guess when it comes to things that matter." 3 seconds passed. The air felt still, but not heavy. Then a quiet knock at the door broke the moment. Once. Twice. Victoria turned without hesitation. "That will be him." She walked to the door and opened it smoothly. A man in his early 50s stepped inside, his posture relaxed, his expression attentive rather than clinical. "Good morning," he said warmly. "Dr. Reynolds." Ethan stepped forward slightly, instinctively positioning himself closer to Lily. "Ethan Cole," he replied. The doctor nodded, then looked toward Lily, lowering his voice just enough to feel safe. "And you must be Lily." She hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Yes. I heard you like music," he added gently. Her eyes flicked toward the piano. "A little." "That is a good place to start," he said with a small smile. 3 short sentences. Calm. Human. Then silence. He did not reach for equipment immediately. He did not rush into questions. Instead, he took a seat nearby, keeping his distance respectful. "Can you tell me how you have been feeling lately?" Lily glanced at Ethan, then back at him. "Tired," she said softly. "And sometimes it is hard to breathe." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. Victoria stood near the window again, watching, not interfering, her hands resting lightly at her sides. The doctor nodded slowly. "That makes sense," he said. "We are going to take a careful look at everything today, all right?" Lily nodded again, a little more certain this time. The room remained quiet, but not tense. It was the kind of quiet that allowed truth to exist without pressure. Ethan watched every movement, every word, measuring, protecting, waiting. Then Dr. Reynolds reached into his bag, pulling out a small device, simple, non-threatening. "This will help me listen to your breathing," he explained gently. Lily took a small breath, then nodded. No fear, just trust, slowly forming. Ethan noticed it immediately. He glanced at Victoria, his voice low. "This is different." She did not look at him right away. "It should be," she replied softly. The doctor listened, asked a few more questions, each one careful, each one building something instead of taking it away. Minutes passed. Then he sat back slightly, thoughtful. 2 seconds. 3. He looked at Ethan, then at Victoria. "I'm going to need to run a few more detailed tests," he said. "But I already see something important." The room stilled. Ethan stepped forward. "What?" The doctor's expression remained calm, but there was a quiet certainty in his eyes now. "This is not as hopeless as you have been told." Silence followed. Not empty, not uncertain, but full. Full of something that had not been in Ethan's world for a long time. Possibility. The words did not echo, but they stayed. "Not as hopeless as you have been told." Ethan did not move right away. He stood there, shoulders still, eyes fixed on Dr. Reynolds, as if the meaning needed time to reach him fully. "Say that again," he said quietly. The doctor did not rush. "I believe there is more we can do," he replied, his tone steady, grounded in certainty rather than promise. 3 seconds passed. Ethan's breath slowed. Then he nodded once, not out of relief, but out of something deeper, something cautious, like a man who had learned not to trust hope too quickly. Lily looked between them, her small voice breaking the stillness. Does that mean I am going to be okay? The question was simple, honest, and for a moment, no one answered. Dr. Reynolds leaned slightly forward, his expression gentle. It means we are not done helping you, he said. Lily held his gaze, searching, then gave a small nod, as if that was enough for now. Behind them, Victoria remained near the window, her posture unchanged, but her attention sharp, focused on every word, every shift in tone. Ethan turned toward her slowly. You knew, he said. Not accusing, not surprised, just certain. Victoria met his eyes. I suspected, she replied. He stepped closer, his voice lower now. You set this up before I even walked into that building. She did not deny it. Yes. One word. Calm. Honest. Ethan exhaled, running a hand over his face. The weight of the past few days settling into something he could finally begin to understand. Why, he asked. Victoria's gaze softened slightly, but she did not look away. Because someone should have done it sooner. The words landed quietly, but they carried something sharp beneath them. Not blame, not judgment, just truth. Ethan looked down for a moment, then back at Lily, who now sat calmly, her shoulders more relaxed than he had seen in weeks. 3 breaths, 1 realization, then silence. What happens next? He asked, turning back to Dr. Reynolds. The doctor straightened slightly, professional but still warm. We schedule full diagnostics, he said. Advanced imaging, respiratory evaluation, and a few specialized tests that most clinics do not offer. Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing each word. And after that, Dr. Reynolds paused, just briefly. Then we build a plan. A real one. The room grew still again, but this time it was different. Not uncertain, not heavy, just focused. Like something had shifted from question to direction. Lily slid off the chair and walked back toward the piano, her fingers brushing the edge lightly. Dad, she said softly. Ethan turned. Yeah. She looked at him, her eyes clearer now. Can I learn to play for real? The question caught him off guard. Not because of what she asked, but because she was asking it all. Ethan smiled faintly, a quiet warmth breaking through the tension. Yes, sweetheart, he said. You can. Victoria watched that moment carefully, her expression still controlled, but something in her eyes changed, something softer, something almost fragile beneath the strength. She stepped forward just slightly. You will have a teacher by next week, she said. Ethan looked at her again, this time differently. Not confused, not guarded, but aware. You have already thought of everything, he said. Victoria shook her head gently. Not everything, she replied. Just the things that matter most. 3 seconds passed. The city outside continued moving, unaware. Inside, something had already changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that could not be undone. And for the first time, Ethan did not feel like he was standing outside of something. He felt like he was being invited in. The room did not celebrate. There were no raised voices, no sudden relief spilling into laughter. Instead, everything settled into something quieter, something deeper, like the moment after a storm when the air feels different, but no one says why. Ethan stood near the piano now, watching Lily press a few more keys, her movements steadier, more certain, as if something inside her had shifted from holding back to reaching forward. 3 notes. A pause. Then a small smile that stayed a little longer this time. That sounds better, Ethan said softly. Lily nodded. It feels better. Victoria stood a few steps away, her hands resting lightly together, observing without interruption. There was no need to step in. Not here. Not now. Dr. Reynolds closed his case gently, the soft click marking the end of something important, even if it had only just begun. I will have my team coordinate everything, he said. We will move quickly, but carefully. Ethan nodded. Thank you. The doctor gave a small, respectful smile. You did the hard part already, he replied. You did not give up. 3 sentences. Simple. Direct. Then he turned and made his way toward the door. Victoria walked with him, exchanging a few quiet words, logistical, precise, the kind that built outcomes instead of conversations. When the door closed behind him, the space felt different again. Not empty, just focused. Ethan exhaled slowly, his eyes moving from the door back to Victoria. You do not do anything halfway, do you? He said. Victoria shook her head slightly. Not when it matters. A pause followed. Then Ethan stepped closer, his voice lower now, less guarded. You said you remembered me, he said. But this is more than remembering. Victoria held his gaze, steady, unflinching. Yes, she replied. He waited. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she glanced once toward Lily, who was now tracing the edge of the piano keys, humming softly under her breath, something that sounded almost like a melody trying to return. 2 seconds passed. 3. Then Victoria looked back at him. Do you remember what you said to me that day? She asked. Ethan frowned slightly. I say a lot of things. A faint, almost invisible smile touched her expression. You said, people do not need someone powerful. They need someone who stays. The words landed quietly, but they did not fade. Ethan blinked once, the memory coming back in fragments, not clear, but enough to feel familiar. I might have said something like that, he admitted. Victoria nodded. You did. 3 seconds. 4. The city outside moved as it always did, unaware that something quiet and important had just been spoken into the room. No one had ever said that to me before, she continued, her voice softer now, not fragile, but honest in a way that did not ask for attention. Everyone stayed for what I had. No one stayed for who I was. Ethan did not interrupt. He did not need to. But you did not stay, he said gently. Victoria shook her head. No, she replied. You left. And that is why I remembered you. Silence followed. Not heavy, not complicated, just true. Ethan looked at her differently now, not as someone distant, not as someone powerful, but as someone who had been carrying something long before he walked into her world again. So this, he gestured lightly around them. The room, the light, the quiet shift in everything. This is you staying? Victoria met his eyes, her voice calm, certain. This is me choosing not to leave. 3 seconds passed. Then Lily's voice broke the stillness, soft but clear. Dad, listen. Ethan turned. She pressed a few keys, then a few more, forming something that almost sounded like a song. Not perfect, not complete, but real. He smiled, a quiet warmth settling into his expression. I hear it, he said. Victoria watched them both, her gaze softening in a way she did not try to hide anymore. And in that moment, there were no titles, no distance, no questions left to answer. Just 3 people standing in the same room, and for the first time, staying. The melody did not need to be perfect. It only needed to be real. Lily pressed the keys slowly, carefully, each note finding its place like something long lost learning how to return. Ethan stood beside her, not correcting, not guiding, just present, his hand resting lightly on the edge of the piano, as if even that small connection mattered. 3 notes. A breath. Then another sequence, steadier now. You are getting better already, he said softly. Lily smiled, not wide, not loud, but enough to change the air around her. I want to keep going, she said. Behind them, Victoria remained still, watching, her expression calm but no longer guarded. There was no distance left in her posture, no invisible line separating her from them. Only presence. Quiet. Intentional. 3 seconds passed. The sunlight shifted again, softer now, stretching across the floor, touching the piano, the walls, the space between them. Then Lily stopped playing. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. She turned slowly, looking first at Ethan, then at Victoria. Her eyes held something new. Not fear. Not hesitation. Something clearer. Can I ask something? She said. Ethan nodded immediately. Of course. Lily looked at Victoria now, her voice small, but steady. Are you going to stay? The question landed gently, but it carried everything that mattered. No one answered right away. Not because the answer was unknown, but because moments like that were not meant to be rushed. Victoria took a single step forward. Then, another. She lowered herself just enough to meet Lily at eye level, her movements calm, deliberate, as if she understood the weight of what was being asked. Yes, she said softly. One word. No promise layered on top. No explanation behind it. Just truth. Lily held her gaze, searching, the way children do when they need something real. Then, slowly, she nodded. One small nod. Acceptance. Trust. She stepped closer, her hand hesitating for a fraction of a second before reaching out. Victoria did not move immediately. She let the moment come to her. Then she gently took Lily's hand, her grip warm, steady, not claiming, not forcing, just holding. Ethan watched, his chest tightening in a way he could not explain, something between relief and disbelief settling into something quieter, something stronger. 3 seconds passed. The city outside continued, unaware. Inside, everything had already changed. Lily looked down at their hands, then back up, her voice softer now. Mom. The word was not loud. It was not certain. It was a question wrapped in hope. And for the first time, Victoria did not answer with control, or distance, or measured precision. Her breath caught, just slightly, her eyes softening in a way that could not be hidden. She did not speak. She did not need to. Because in that single moment, something deeper than words filled the space. Ethan did not interrupt. He did not move. He simply stood there, witnessing something he had not dared to imagine. Lily smiled, small but real, her fingers tightening just a little around Victoria's hand. And the room fell completely silent. Not empty, not uncertain, but full of something rare, something earned, something that did not need to be explained. Because sometimes dignity does not speak. Grace does not announce itself. And the greatest changes in a life happen in silence.